All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Google Classroom Love Our Users Hangout. This is our first Hangout on air we're doing for the Google Classroom product, and we're really excited to share some things regarding feedback and just some things about the working of the product and some feedback we've gotten from a form we had you guys fill out in preparation for Hangout. But first, why don't we introduce ourselves? I'll start off with Jen here. Want to say who you are?
You want me to give my own introduction?
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm Jennifer Holland. I'm the program manager for Google Apps for Education and Classroom. And so excited to work with these guys and the rest of the classroom experts to better understand what teachers, students, and administrators want in both Classroom and Google Apps for Education, and excited to kind of give you a peek into how we prioritize that feedback, what we do with it, and how we work alongside teachers and students to help make our products a lot better.
Great. Michael, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Mike Fricano. I'm a tech integration specialist and Google education trainer based in Hawaii at a K-12 private school.
Great. And I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Ziggy. I'm a top contributor for Google Docs, Hangouts, and for Google Classroom, and generally a Google Apps for Education. I'm also involved in a couple other of the Google product forums, which is basically the go-to spot for if you have questions or running into problems using any of the Google products. You can submit questions and submit feedback as well for different products, and I'm one of the people who helps answer those questions. Outside of that, I'm a computer science student at a university. I'm in my third year studying computer science. I think that's it for our introductions. So we'll go ahead and we'll start off with some of the things you guys brought up on our forum. One of the things, categories, was best practices that people brought up. So we've all kind of looked through some of the forums. So why don't we each share couple of the pieces of good feedback for best practices that kind of seem to be helping teachers and students better manage their classrooms and make it easier for them for the assignment workflow. So I guess I'll go ahead first. I'll pick up one of these from the forum. A lot of users have talked about with Classroom, one of the nice things is the fact that often when students are out sick, it kind of disconnects them from the classroom while they're at home. So that makes it more difficult, coming back from being sick or being on vacation to try to get back up to speed. What's nice about classrooms now that we can go into a digital age is that everything can be stored in one central place, and if you miss class, you can put things in digital format up so that somebody doesn't feel as lost. So one user says that they use Snagit to tape basically the lesson so that if the student's out and absent, they could look at either in a Google Drive video or if you want to post online a YouTube video, and through Classroom they would be able to watch it and get up to speed on where they were, so when they come back from being absent, they're not behind and they can keep up with the class and the transmission's nice and smooth.
And Dan, I'll add to that. I saw a couple of people, I've seen it through the send feedback button, and then I've also seen it on Twitter. A lot of teachers, they had a couple of students that were out on sick leave, kind of a longer sick leave, and they actually used Hangouts and had the students dial in from their couch so they didn't actually miss any of the class discussion, and then used Hangouts again when they did smaller group work. So like the student was able to totally participate in class from their couch when they were sick, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about how they're still using it during snow days. So even though there's a snow day, that test is still going to happen on Monday, and you better be ready for it.
Michael, you're in Hawaii.
Yeah, we have wind days, I think.
Yeah, if you're on the East Coast like Jen and I, snow is definitely something you got to worry about, especially with these snowmageddons we've been having for the past couple of weeks. Definitely throw classes behind schedule, especially if you're on a 10-week term or in your semester or once a week night classes, something like that. If you're in a college setting, it's definitely you can have class away from class because of, for whatever reason, it's definitely a valuable tool to be able to utilize.
Yeah. Wait, I think we also saw it, and Jennifer posted in our form for this hangout. She said that there are school principals using it for staff professional development. I've definitely seen a lot of that,
Yeah.
that it's used for that, and that their first graders think Google Classroom is the coolest thing ever, which warms my heart. And more kids are asking for homework.
What?
I know, right?
It's also been a great tool for flipping the classroom and using as part of that blended learning model. So being able to provide instruction to students while you're not in the classroom. I've seen a lot of examples of that as well. That's really cool.
And they have the ability to have the discussions within the actual discussion feed itself is nice, so if there's questions related to an assignment, right under the assignment somebody could post, for clarification, and then the teacher would be able to respond right back, and all the students would be able to see it when they look at the assignment, so it's not confusion, and it makes it a lot easier when everything's in one place.
Yeah, and Julie from Chicago Public Schools commented that, she said she's found that the creativity of her students has really dramatically increased because of the ability to, you can take pictures and attach those to assignments, and students feel like they can really show off their work, which I think is really cool. I know that in one of the first grade classes I was visiting, the teacher had her students read a passage out loud and write one sentence, and then they all gathered around a little carpet and read each other's things out loud, and it was just a cool way to practice reading. It also helped them to learn how to type, so that was really cool. And she said, Julie also mentioned that the students are loving the feedback that they receive on their writing, so really combining that power of Google Apps and all the commenting feature and suggest edits in Docs makes it a really powerful tool. So thanks, Julie, for that insight.
Yeah, it makes it really easy to manage the writing process with students. Definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We also, a couple of us go onto the Google Plus communities where we're talking about Classroom. The other day, a couple of people were asking about whether you could, for example, an exam, if you had like an exam kind of thing where you had to work on it only during specific times, like during class, how do you manage that? And a lot of people were coming up with like, oh, we could run scripts or stuff like that, and I presented the very simple solution of, well, you could just turn in the assignment and then release it back the next day when the teacher can release it back to the students the next day in the lab in the next class period. And they didn't really think about that, that a lot of these features that it comes with, you can use it multiple ways. Instead of just thinking about it as turning it in, you could think about it as putting a hold on it, because once it turns in, students can't edit the assignment until it's released back to them. So that they didn't think about the fact that some of these features that you think about it as one way can be used a lot of ways. So it's all about just thinking about what the features actually do, and it makes it a lot easier.
And to piggyback off of that, I think that's been on the product side for us as a team. We've been so amazed at the creativity of teachers and administrators and students using our product. There are things that I had no idea that you could do with Classroom, just based on what teachers are, how they're applying it to their classroom. I think pretty consistently what I've seen is that assignments, the concept of an assignment has shifted, and how teachers give feedback has shifted with Classroom, because the teachers can see an assignment all the way through and provide feedback all the way through an assignment, not just at the end. So the teacher becomes a coach in a lot of situations, and able to provide that feedback early and often, and not just at the end when the student's done and probably doesn't really care a ton about like the feedback that they're getting at the end. But if you can kind of front load those comments, it's really impactful. And so we're seeing a lot of teachers comment on that as well, which is really exciting. Should we move to our next topic? Are there other things that you guys wanted to share?
I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
Dan, you want to lead us?
Sure. All right. So I think one of the biggest things is because it's a new product. In fact, I believe we just had our 6-month anniversary for Classroom, if I remember correctly. So it's a relatively young product. So a lot of the product has been developing since it's been created. So changes have happened since the base of Classroom has started. So that opens up for a lot of feedback. So I know one of the things we've been talking about since the beginning is the fact that the classroom's getting built based upon feedback as opposed to predefined like goals, and saying that it's not like like you're building a word editor and you kind of know the features you want. This is Classroom's being built differently. So I wonder if you can go into a little bit about like how Classroom's being built differently as opposed to maybe other products.
Yeah. So I think for us, Classroom is all about our users, and our users are teachers and students and educators, administrators, and we never want to assume or make the assumption that you need a specific tool or functionality. What we do is we spend a lot of time talking to teachers and students and better understanding the pain points and the workflows, and then look to design from that. So much of our product decisions are built around the feedback that we get from all of our users through the send feedback button. And so I always say repetition doesn't spoil the prayer, but literally clicking that send feedback button gets in front of our team, and we look at every single piece of feedback that comes in and tag it accordingly. And then what happens after that is we do a number of things. So we look at all the feedback coming in, we stack rank what the features are, and then we want to work on things that people care most about. And that's kind of how we do our launches. And we never want to assume based on what you wrote that that's exactly what you want. So what we do is a lot of times we'll follow up with a subset of people that submitted us feedback and actually do remote hangouts and talk to those teachers that submitted that feedback and better understand what it is that they want. We take that, our design team then works together, runs a number of usability studies and more. We collect more feedback, and then eventually the feature gets built and it launches. And hopefully anyone that sends us feedback gets an email letting them know that the feature that they requested actually launched. It's been pretty fun to see all the emails that I send out show up on Twitter. That's usually, that's the best thing about sending those emails, is how excited everyone is about that we listen to their feedback.
Definitely, yeah, and I mean it's great to see how the products evolve, especially since one of the biggest feature requests in the beginning was creating an app. So now we have an app. A couple of things from an organizational standpoint with how we're organizing assignments, students, and things. We've changed some of those things. And we kind of talked about it before. So where's the best place to suggest the feedback, basically?
The best place is to hit the question mark in the bottom right corner of the product, select send feedback, and then send us your requests or your questions. Or if you find something that's not working, we find issues because users report it. So it's the best way to get in front of our team. We monitor it all day long. I also want to say, if you're interested in participating in usability studies, so that's providing feedback on new things and functionality, let us know through that send feedback button, and we'll follow up with you as well. So we're using it not only to collect feedback on existing features or functionality, but if you want to be part of our team and really help provide feedback on what's coming down the pipeline, we'd love that as well.
Great. Now I know one of the big questions that people often ask is when, or is it coming and when, which is very understandable since it's exciting. So I know the reason why, but probably it sounds best coming from you about why can't we say that things are coming, specific things are coming, and when they're coming. There's a reason behind it, and maybe you could just explain why.
So we never, ever, ever commit to timelines. It's just not something that Google does. Things can change dramatically, and for us, it's really important about being flexible and focusing on our users and really taking the time to understand what it is that they want. The last thing that we want to do is promise a date and then have it slip and have everyone be upset. So we take that feedback, and I think you can look at the launch history and figure out which has been the most important features that people have been requesting, and that's what we've been looking to. So if there's something that's missing from the product that you want, send us feedback. That's literally a lot of how we make decisions. So highly, highly recommend it. And I know that a lot of people said, well, I posted my suggestion in the forum. Well, that's great, but that's not the send feedback button. So make sure you also send it in the send feedback button.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for anything else you wanted to add about the feedback process that I'm not thinking of?
The other piece that I would love, so one is, let us know when there's an issue. That's number one. Number two, let us know if there's something that's missing that you would want to see. 3 is, if you want to participate in some of our usability studies with our UX team, let us know. Literally just say, I want to participate in a usability study. And that I'll follow up with you. And then the 4th thing is, if you have a best practice, we want to highlight it. We want to show the world what you're doing because you're probably doing pretty amazing things. So if you can also use that send feedback button and say, here's my best practice, literally use the word best practice, I will make sure that we have a way of following up with you to capture that success. So Dan, I'm grilling you because you're our student. What are the 4 things?
What are the 4 things? All right, so if there's a problem, send feedback. If you have feedback, send feedback. If you want to be part of the usability study, then say that you want to be part of the usability study and the feedback. And finally, if you have a best practice, make sure you send feedback.
A. You get an A.
I'm going to go do all of those things right when we're done.
You should.
Exactly. All right. Are we good to shift to the next talking point?
Yeah. So well, one, I think this is actually a good segue. So I had mentioned, just because you submit something in the forum doesn't mean that it gets in. I mean, we review it, but the best place to go is the send feedback button. So could you guys, as classroom experts, describe, and maybe Michael, this is for you, what the forum is, and then maybe we could review some of the top questions that people have in the forum.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I consider the forum as like the official go-to place for seeking answers to questions or assistance with issues, because it connects the users to the team as well as you, Jen, because you're on there. And I think for me, even though we tell people the best place to give feedback is through the send feedback, I also like to see people giving their feedback in the forum because it allows me as a user to also think, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to go submit that feedback as well. So if they just sent the feedback and didn't tell anybody about it, either the community or forum, it wouldn't become as widespread as an idea as it can be through the forum or the community. So.
Point to add to that is the forums is a great place to do a how-to, for example. So how do I do this if you don't know how to do it? If it hasn't been answered before, you can certainly ask. Another great place to look potentially before you go there, or if you don't understand it from there, is the Help Center. So the Help Center has a lot of great resources in terms of how to do basic things like turning in assignments, grading, anything along those lines. A lot of that stuff is included in the Help Center, but obviously, sometimes that's confusing, or sometimes maybe just doesn't make sense. So if you need a secondary person to explain it to you, obviously posting the forums is a great place to get that help and assistance.
And the good news is it's also, those links are also in the product under the question mark. So the same place where the send feedback button is, there's the link for teachers to the product forum, and then for everybody, there's the link to the Help Center. So it's all right there, so you don't have to go searching for it, which I think is great. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about who answers those questions in the forum?
Really anybody can answer the questions, but we do have a group of what we deem as the classroom experts, people who either have experience with working with teachers who use Classroom or use Classroom themselves and have a lot of knowledge on the product already. And there's quite a handful of us that frequent the forum. So you could post a question and probably get an answer within 5, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty quick.
It's pretty amazing. And I think the other cool thing is Dan is is a student. So I love to call that out because I think it's a great way for students to get involved. I've been talking to a lot of students around the world that are using Classroom and maybe have a tech club at school. And we actually have a space that students can come and ask each other questions. And so we'd love to invite more students to get involved, like Dan. Dan would be happy to show everyone the ropes. I learn something new every day from you, Dan, on the forum. I'm like, if I don't know how to do something in the forum, I ask Dan, which is like great. But we want more students to get involved and more teachers. And like you mentioned, everyone can participate, but we do have a bunch of classroom experts that are educators, teachers, students, IT administrators. So it's really great because not only do you understand the pedagogical approach, you also know how the tools work.
And the nice thing is, at least, is a lot of the product is based upon things you're probably already familiar with. Docs, Drive, it's starting from a nice base. So even if you're not an expert on Classroom specifically yet, I mean, a couple of questions also have to do with understanding how Drive works and Docs work. So that's a great base to start off with as well. If you're used to those things, jumping to Classroom is not a huge leap forward, just because it's really, in a lot of ways, the Classroom is really a nice interface over Drive to help manage some of the things having to do with moving files around and turning it in and managing permissions.
Great. Do you guys want to maybe ask, I know we're all in the forum regularly, what are some of the top, sort of user education questions that you guys are seeing?
I think one of the biggest ones has to do with understanding the differences between a student and a teacher and switching back and forth between those roles. So a lot of people think that being a teacher, that means you can't be a student in another class. That's not actually true. The teacher is really actually a set of permissions in essence. So you can be a teacher and be a student in, say, a classroom that has all the teachers and administrators in it, like if you're doing workshops or something like that, or if that's how you're sharing announcements for the entire school, you can do that all through Classroom. And even though you have teacher permissions, you can be a student within that classroom. Sometimes, especially when the product launched, there was some confusion over, oh, I chose student, but I'm really a teacher, or vice versa. All that is actually managed through the Google business groups within the admin console. So if you click student and you're really a teacher, all you'd have to do is contact your domain administrator, and they would be able to add you to the Classroom teachers group. So it would be classroom_teachers at groups.google.com. And that's within the Google Groups for Business app, and they would be able to do it there. There's actually a Help Center link. If you go to the Help Center, there's a section for administrators, and under there you can find specific instructions on how to switch to a student to a teacher. And it's just the reverse. If you are a student accidentally clicked teacher or tried to become a teacher, and you want to take them out, remove those permissions, all you'd have to do is go into that same group and just remove that user from the list, from the group, and then they would no longer have the teacher permissions. Michael, do you have anything? I know there are a couple of things that...
Yeah, the other one is has been some confusion over what, once you create an assignment, if you need to go back and edit it, what kinds of options you have. So I know there's some confusion over whether you can add a new attachment to an assignment and then have it make a copy while you're editing that assignment, and that option is only available when teachers first create an assignment. So again, if you want to have the assignment make a copy for each student, you can only do that when you first create that assignment. You lose that option when you go back and edit it. So that's something to definitely be aware of.
Want to tackle co-teaching?
So yeah, I mean, this is again, it's a request that we've definitely been seeing in the forum. We've definitely seen it come through the feedback tool. I would say if people really want co-teacher, please let us know using that send feedback button. I was reading the forum post, and I promise you it was not a design oversight, which I think, we're trying to be really intentional about what we add and when we add. And adding another role is complexity. And one of the core features and functionality that I think Classroom brings is simplicity. And so for us to introduce anything new, we want to be, especially something like that is huge and we know is really important, we want to make sure that when and if we do it right. And that goes for any feature that we add. But I would say, if it's super important, make sure you hit that send feedback button. That's how we've done a lot of our launches. So you can imagine mobile apps recently launched was at the top of our list. So that's really how we make a lot of our product decisions. So I would say encourage your teachers that want that to please submit that feedback. And we'll definitely look into it. Is that fair?
Yep, sounds good.
Fair. That's fair.
Anything else you guys can think of that was in the forums a lot, question-wise?
I've seen calendar integration.
Yeah.
And again, that's a similar thing, and we want to be really intentional about what we add. It was actually really interesting. People say, well, I want calendar, and then we followed up and we did a number of usability studies, like focus group studies with people, and they want calendar, but they want some specific things within it. So it's not just calendar integration. So for us, it's about really understanding what is it that people want. So be as articulate as you can when you hit that send feedback button, and we'll definitely take a look. And again, if you want to participate in those usability studies as well, and you really care about a particular topic, please let us know, and we'll make sure we follow up. But I think that's another hot topic. And again, we're trying to be thoughtful about what we add and when we add it, not to overwhelm people. And I think simplicity is king in a lot of ways. And that said, we know that there's still some things that we need to add, and are really excited about what's coming.
Yeah, I think another thing that we'll probably see, not now, but we saw a little bit over the winter, and we'll probably see more going into the spring and towards the end of the school year, is talking about transitioning between being a student, the classroom 1 year and going to another year, and that kind of correlates into scheduling assignments and things of that nature, so that a teacher could assign, for example, if you know in 2 weeks you're going to have a homework assignment that you want to appear, or a test that you want to appear on the day of the test, for example. Like, those kinds of features aren't available yet, and again, would be sending feedback to let the team know, what kinds of things you would expect in a scheduled release assignment. But those are kinds of things where I think we'll see that start to pick up in the next in 2 or 3 months, when you go in May and June, and when the end of the school year starts happening and teachers start thinking about planning towards the fall.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think one thing that we would love, and we try to go out and visit schools every week. We bring our engineering team, and we go and literally sit and observe classes. As you think about the transition period, whether it be at the beginning of a semester, middle of the semester, end of the semester, going into the fall, what are the things that you need, and what would make your life a lot easier for planning purposes? Those are the types of things that we're really interested in. So if there are things that you want and wish you had, please let us know. That would be a huge, huge help.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. So anything else you guys can think of? With that, we can transition to, kind of touched over it before, but maybe recap about the different places people are going for help or sharing their ideas.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one thing that we see is, the Help Center exists. It is like step-by-step how to do things in classroom. There's also warm welcomes or guided help flows that walk you through how to use some of the features and functionality, but definitely recommend looking at the Help Center, and you'll see step-by-step, how to create a class, how to add students. Take a look there, and then if you don't find your answer, the best thing to do is first go to the forum and search for what you're looking for. Instead of just posting a question, just search, because I guarantee that it's probably, the question has already been asked, and there's probably an answer. And then if you don't, of course, see the question or the answer, you can then post a question. If you're experiencing issues, let us know. Again, send feedback as well as in the forum. And if you can provide us with your class URL, those things, and screenshots, those things help us troubleshoot a lot faster, and we can figure out if there's an issue. So those are the two main, or I guess technically three main places you can go. Do you guys want to describe a little bit more about our Classroom Experts team and how others can get involved?
Sure. I guess take that on. In general, the Classroom Experts team kind of basically divides their efforts between two main areas. One being the forum, which is our main priority, because that's where it's, first of all, it's our official channel for talking to users and answering questions, and if somebody happens to post feedback there, kind of being aware of what some of the common feedback pieces are. But in addition, we've also, some of our different members of our team are also posting and answering questions or tweeting through Twitter. We also have a Google Plus community, a couple of the Google Plus communities we're active in, including the classroom community. We also have a Pinterest board that we have. So we have, you kind of have a lot of the main social medias covered, where you can follow either our individual users on Classroom. For Classroom Experts team, you can actually follow us on Google Plus. We have a Google Plus page, which is where this event was hosted from. And we have, did I miss any other major ones that I didn't think of? Those are.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't remember if you mentioned it, but we also created a Google Classroom Experts page on Google Plus, where these Hangouts are connected to, and we've been sharing some best tips and practices through there as well. So like that page and follow it, add it to a circle.
All those things, all the things. Yeah, but I mean, our team's always looking for people who are also really, interested in looking into using Google Apps for education and using Classroom to be able to make their classrooms easier to use, and want to help other users by spreading their knowledge and knowledge that we learn from each other, and making the Classroom product better, and hopefully helping other users to not make the product seem scary because it's new and people don't, aren't using it yet. That it's a great, we don't like to call it a learning management system because it's a lot. It's not a learning management system. It's different than that. In the way that it's built and the way that it interacts with Drive, and how the users are using it is completely different.
Yeah, I would just say if people are interested in one, it's a great opportunity to learn from each other, help other teachers. It's about a community. We're very community focused, and welcome anyone and everyone that wants to participate. It's a totally open forum, so encourage everyone to come check it out.
Yeah, and follow the hashtag Google Classroom on Twitter. That's very active. A lot of tips and best practices and questions being asked on there. And I also wanted to mention another great source is the Google for Education page. They have 6 lessons for Google Classroom. Very simple step-by-step directions on how to do different things in Classroom, and so that's a really good source to get started as well.
Yeah, and there's also tools, or training for all the other Google products, education products as well. And there's also the exam certifications. There's a lot of really great resources that are out there, so definitely encourage you to check that one out. That's a great resource. Great.
Yeah. So I think we're heading towards the end here. Anything else you guys wanted to add as wrapping up? Any last tips or?
I'll say my last parting word is send feedback.
What about you, Michael?
I'm looking forward to the next 6 months.
Yeah, I can second that motion, definitely. It definitely, I think, just seeing the past 6 months where we've been, and you know, if we're even going at just the same level of features coming out, you know, and I'm sure they're going to get even better. That, you know, it's going to be really exciting time to jump on the Google Apps for Education and Classroom and moving away from the learning management systems that people,
I would say they work great. Each person's up, they can make their own decision. But I think Classroom's a great start, and it makes it really easy to use Google Apps in the classroom. And we're really excited. You know, half of our team are former educators, really cool, engineering and, you know, on the product and UX side. So we have a lot of people that are rooting for everybody in the education world, and really excited to just work alongside of everyone. So please continue to send us those great ideas, and hopefully we'll connect.
Definitely, yeah, and feel free to join up on the forums and answer questions, or reach out to us through Plussing Us or whatever. If you want to learn more about being a classroom expert and joining our team, I'd be more than happy to get you into the program, because we're always looking for more people who are passionate about, you know, education and using technology in that way.
Great.
Cool. Well, thanks for those of you who are watching, and thanks to Jen and Michael for coming along for the ride today. We'll definitely, obviously, be looking to do more of these in the future, on what users want, or if we have, you know, big features coming out or anything like that. I'm sure we'll definitely be having more hangouts in the future with things to do with Classroom.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. All right.